April 30th, 1968. Over 30 hours, the Cua Viet River moves like oil in the dark. No moon, no stars, just the weight of water and the sound of men breathing through their mouths, trying not to cough, trying not to exist. Captain James J. Livingston lies in elephant grass 6 feet tall, wet to his skin, listening. His Marines' 2nd Platoon, Echo Company, 2nd Battalion. 4th Marines are strung out in a line behind him, invisible even to each other. They've been motionless for 40 minutes. Across the paddy, perhaps 300 meters distant, something moves. Livingston doesn't raise his head, doesn't signal. The movement could be wind, could be a farmer, could be an entire North Vietnamese Army regiment repositioning in the dark, which is what intelligence says has been happening for the past 72 hours north of Dong Ha. The grass hisses. A single rifle shot breaks the silence, not from the Marines, but from somewhere east. Then another. Then the flat, mechanical chatter of an AK-47 or full automatic. And suddenly the paddy erupts. Green traces arc across the darkness like something from underneath the earth. And Livingston is screaming into his radio handset while his platoon opens fire at shapes. They cannot see. This is not the battle. This is just first contact. The ground. Cua Viet River marks the southern edge of the demilitarized zone, the political fiction that divided North and South Vietnam along the 17th parallel. By 1968, there is nothing demilitarized about it. 2 months earlier, 30,000 North Vietnamese troops crossed into the south during the Tet Offensive. They hit cities, air bases, the American embassy in Saigon. They lost badly, but the psychological damage was irreversible. The American public watched their televisions and stopped believing their government. Now, in late April, intelligence reports a fresh build-up. The 320th NVA Division, perhaps 9,000 men, is moving south through the DMZ toward Dong Ha, a critical supply hub that feeds the entire northern front of American operations. If Dong Ha falls, the Marine positions at Con Thien, Jo Lin and Camp Carroll become isolated. If they become isolated, they die. The terrain is a nightmare. The land north of Dong Ha is flat, wet, and cut by rivers Cua Viet, Bo Do, Jones, Creek. Rice paddies stretch for kilometers, separated by thin tree lines and scattered villages built on low rises barely above flood level. There are no hills to defend, no high ground to anchor a position. Every village Dai Do, Din Tu, Thong Du, and Lac is a maze of hedgerows, bamboo thickets, stone walls, and fighting holes dug deep into the clay. The North Vietnamese love this terrain. American Marines hate it. There is no maneuver space, no room for armor, no clear fields of fire. Helicopter landing zones are exposed. Artillery has to be called danger close because the enemy is always within 50 meters. Napalm burns the tree lines but doesn't kill what's underneath. The villagers absorb violence like a sponge and give nothing back except bodies. This is where the 320th NVA Division chooses to fight. The enemy 320th NVA Division is not militia. It is not Viet Cong. It is a regular unit of the People's Army of Vietnam, trained in the north, equipped by the Soviet Union and China, and commanded by officers who studied at Hanoi's military academies. They do not wear black pajamas. They wear khaki uniforms, pith helmets, and web gear. They carry AK-47s, RPG-7 rocket launchers, heavy machine guns, and recoilless rifles. Their officers carry maps, radios, and orders written on paper. They dig. The NVA soldiers are engineers of survival. Every village they occupy becomes a fortress. They dig fighting positions 3 feet deep, roofed with logs and sandbags. They dig spider holes for snipers. They dig tunnels between buildings so they can move unseen. They dig mortar pits, ammunition, bunkers, and escape routes that lead to the next village. When American forces attack a village, the NVA do not retreat. They wait inside the bunkers, let the artillery pass over them, and then emerge to fight at ranges where American firepower loses its advantage 10 meters. 5 meters, hand to dash hand. Their commanders understand something fundamental. American Forces rely on firepower to substitute for manpower. If you force them into close combat, into confined spaces where they cannot call artillery or air support without killing themselves, you neutralize their technological edge. The 320th Division's mission is simple. Hold the villages north of Dong Ho. Bleed the Americans. Force them to commit reserves. By time for the main offensive elsewhere, they have been given permission to accept casualties. They will. The Marinist 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines call sign Magnificent Bastards, is undermanned, underrested, and overused. They've been in continuous combat since February. Most companies are at 60% strength. Replacements arrive weekly. 18-year-old riflemen from California, Texas, the Midwest, who step off helicopters and are handed a rifle and a grid coordinate. Some die within 72 hours before anyone learns their names. The battalion commander is Lieutenant Colonel William Weiss, a career Marine who fought in Korea and understands that courage without competence gets men killed. Weiss is methodical, cautious, and willing to tell his superiors no a dangerous trait in an organization that values aggression. His company commanders are younger, harder, and more reckless. Captain Livingston, commanding Echo Company, is 24 years old. He will earn the Medal of Honor in the next 4 days. Captain Myron Shelton, commanding Foxtrot Company, is a Texan who leads from the front and believes in violence as a form of communication. The Marines do not have a plan for Dai Do. They have a direction of attack and a radio frequency. First contact April 30th, dawn. Echo Company moves north from Dong Ho on foot, wading through paddies that suck at their boots, rifles held high to keep them dry. They are heading toward the village of Dong Huan, 2 kilometers north, where intelligence believes an NVA battalion is preparing to attack. Livingston's platoon, the one that made contact in the dark, is on point. At 0615 hours, they reach the southern edge of Dong Huan and stop. The village is silent. No chickens, no dogs, no smoke from cooking fires. Livingston orders his platoon forward. They move in a line, spacing 5 meters apart, weapons up. The first Marine reaches the tree line, steps between 2 bamboo stalks, and disappears in a burst of automatic fire. He falls backward into the paddy, chest torn open, dead before he understands what happened. The NVA open fire from 3 sides. Marines drop into the mud, returning fire at muzzle flashes. Bullets snap overhead, low and flat, the sound like wet sheets tearing. An RPG streaks across the paddy and explodes against a dike, throwing mud and shrapnel. A machine gun opens up from a bunker 70 meters away, raking the Marine line, and 2 more men go down. Livingston is on the radio, screaming for artillery. The first rounds land minutes later. 105mm high explosive shells that scream in from the south and detonate in the village with a sound like the earth breaking. Trees disintegrate, walls collapse, fires start in the thatch roofs. The NVA do not stop firing. Livingston realizes what he's facing. This is not a patrol. This is not a skirmish. This is a prepared defense held by soldiers who have been ordered to die in place. He pulls his platoon back. By 0700 hours, Echo Company has lost 6 men killed, 14 wounded. They hold a position for 100 meters south of Dong Huan, taking sporadic fire. Waiting for orders, Livingston expects to be told to withdraw. Instead, he is told to attack. The order comes from Higher Command 3rd Marine Division. Headquarters in Dong Ho. Intelligence has revised its estimate. The NVA presence is not a battalion. It is a regiment. Perhaps 2 regiments. They are dug in across a line of 4 villages: Dong Huan, Dai Do, Din Tu, Thon Du, and they are preparing to attack south toward Dong Ha. The Marine response is immediate and predictable. Attack first. Lieutenant Colonel Weiss receives the order at 0730 hours. He is told to take his battalion north, clear the villages, and destroy the NVA forces. He's given no additional troops, no tanks, no significant air support beyond the helicopters already assigned to medevac. Weiss looks at his map. For villages, each approximately 500 meters across, separated by open paddies. Unknown. Enemy strength, no intelligence on bunker locations, no aerial reconnaissance, no time to plan. He issues his orders. Echo Company will attack Dong Huan from the south. Foxtrot Company will move east and assault Dai Do, the largest village. Golf Company will remain in reserve. Hotel Company will provide fire support from the south. The attack will begin at 0900 hours. Weiss knows this is insane. He also knows that in the Marine Corps, you do not debate orders. You execute them and adjust when men start dying. Second Assault 0850. Ours. Echo Company moves forward again, this time with artillery preparation. For 15 minutes, 105mm and 155mm shells hammer Dong Huan, walking up and down the village in a pattern designed to collapse bunkers and kill anything above ground. When the shelling stops, the Marines advance. They move fast, running across the open paddy in a line, trying to cover the 400 meters before the NVA recover. Halfway across, the firing starts. AK-47s, machine guns, RPGs and Marines begin falling. They do not stop. They reach the tree line and push into the village, firing into doorways, throwing grenades into bunkers, moving building to building. The fighting is immediate and personal. A Marine kicks open a door and is shot in the face by an NVA soldier 5 feet away. Another Marine throws a grenade through a window, waits for the explosion, and steps inside to find 3 dead NVA and 1 still alive, aiming a rifle. He shoots. First. Livingston moves through the chaos, directing his platoons by hand signals because the radio is jammed with traffic. He watches a bunker 30 meters away, sees the muzzle flash of a machine gun, and calls artillery directly onto his own. Position danger close, 20 meters, the shell lands. The bunker collapses. By 10:30 hours, Echo Company holds the southern half of Dong Huan. They've lost 11 more men killed, 23 wounded. The NVA have withdrawn to the northern half of the village and continue firing. Livingston radios. Weiss, we need reinforcements or we're going to lose this. Weiss responds, hold what you have. Foxtrot is moving on Dai Do. Dai Do is larger than Dong Huan, perhaps 1,000 meters across, with thick hedgerows and stone walls that form natural bunkers. It sits on a low rise, just high enough to give the defenders a clear view of the surrounding paddies. Captain Myron Shelton leads Foxtrot Company toward Dai Do from the east, moving across open ground under sporadic fire. His Marines are exhausted before they start. They've been awake for 36 hours, humping through paddies, carrying 60 pounds of gear in 100-degree heat. At 1100 hours, they reach the edge of the village and stop. Shelton orders his lead platoon forward. They move into the tree line and immediately take fire, not scattered shots, but a sustained barrage from multiple positions. The NVA have turned Dai Do into a fortress. Every building is a bunker. Every hedgerow conceals a fighting position. The Marines push forward anyway. They move in teams, one team firing while the other advances, using grenades to clear bunkers, using flamethrowers to burn out positions that won't surrender. The NVA fight back with equal ferocity, counterattacking from tunnels, appearing behind Marine positions, forcing hand-to-hand combat. A Marine corporal named Thomas Bloodworth charges a machine gun, Nest alone, firing his M16 on full automatic until it jams, then drawing his pistol and shooting to NVA soldiers at point-blank range before being killed by a third. Another Marine, a rifleman named Robert Hernandez, holds a position for 20 minutes after being shot through the shoulder, refusing evacuation until his squad can withdraw. By 1300 hours, Foxtrot Company has advanced 100 meters into Dai Do. They've lost 16 men killed, 31 wounded. They are running out of ammunition. The counterattack NVA do not defend passively. They counterattack. At 1330 hours, an NVA company approximately 120 men emerges from the northern end of Dai Do and charges straight at Foxtrot's position. They move in a line, firing AK-47s from the hip, screaming, accepting. Casualties, trying to overrun the Marine line through sheer momentum. The Marines open fire. M16s, M60 machine guns, M79 grenade launchers, everything fires at once. The NVA soldiers fall in groups, but others keep coming. An RPG team gets within 30 meters and fires, killing 3 Marines. A Marine machine gunner named David Lee fires 800 rounds in 3 minutes, holding his position until the barrel of his M60 glows red and the weapon jams. The NVA reach the Marine line. What follows is not combat, it is killing. Marines and NVA soldiers fire at each other from distances measured in feet. Grenades detonate in clusters. Men stab each other with bayonets. A Marine corpsman is shot while trying to bandage a wounded man and continues working until he bleeds out. Captain Shelton is everywhere, moving between positions, directing fire, dragging wounded men to cover. He kills an NVA soldier with his pistol, reloads, and kills another. After 10 minutes, the NVA attack collapses. The survivors withdraw into the village, leaving 43 bodies in the paddy. Foxtrot Company holds. Barely. Night, April 30th, 1800 hours. The sun is setting. The temperature drops. The smell of the battlefield blood, cordite, burning thatch. Human waste settles into the ground. Echo Company still holds the southern half of Donghuan. Foxtrot Company holds a position inside Dai Do. Both companies are under strength, running low on ammunition and surrounded by NVA forces that have not withdrawn. Lieutenant Colonel Weiss orders both companies to dig in and hold through the night. Resupply will come at first light. Medevac helicopters will extract the wounded. Reinforcements maybe will arrive by noon. The Marines dig fighting holes in the mud. 2 men per hole, staggered along the perimeter. They eat cold sea rations, drink iodine-laced water from their canteens, and wait. At 2,100 hours. The NVA probe the lines. Small teams 3 or 4 men move quietly through the paddies, testing for weak points. They throw grenades, fire a few shots, and withdraw before the Marines can respond. It happens every 20 minutes, all night, designed to prevent sleep, to erode morale, to make the Marines kill each other in the dark. The Marines do not sleep. They sit in their holes, staring into darkness, listening for footsteps, trying to distinguish the sound of an NVA soldier from the sound of the wind, moving through elephant grass. At 0 to 30 hours. An NVA sapper team gets within 10 meters of Echo Companies perimeter before being detected. A Marine fires a flare. The battlefield lights up in magnesium-white brilliance, and the Marines open fire. The sappers die in the open, their satchel charges detonating when hit by bullets, throwing dirt and body parts across the paddy. The night continues. By dawn, the Marines are hallucinating from exhaustion. Some see movement that isn't there. Others fall asleep sitting upright and wake to their squad leaders slapping them. No one has slept more than 30 minutes in 48 hours. May. FIRSTO 600 hours. Helicopters come in low over Donghuan, bringing ammunition, water, and plasma. They land in a rice paddy under fire, rotors never stopping. Crew chiefs kicking crates out the doors while Marines drag wounded men aboard. One helicopter takes an RPG through the tail rotor and crashes to 100 meters away. The crew survives. The NVA kill them while they're climbing out of the wreckage. Lieutenant Colonel Weiss receives new orders. Continue the attack. Clear Dai Do. Clear Din Do. Clear Thong Do. Destroy the 320th NVA Division. He has 2 companies left at effective strength. Echo and Foxtrot. Golf Company is moving north to join the fight. Hotel Company remains in reserve. Weiss looks at the casualty reports. In 24 hours, his battalion has lost 43 men killed, 81 wounded. He has no idea how many NVA are dead, but it doesn't matter. They keep fighting. He orders the attack to resume at 0800 hours. Foxtrot's advance Captain Shelton leads Foxtrot Company deeper into Dai Do. They move slowly, building to building, clearing each position with grenades and rifle fire before advancing. The NVA resist from bunkers, from rooftops, from spider holes that suddenly erupt with gunfire and then go silent when the Marine inside drops a grenade down the opening. At 0930 hours. Foxtrot reaches the center of Dai Do, a small clearing surrounded by stone walls. They stopped to regroup, and the NVA hit them from 3 sides. Machine gun fire rakes the clearing. Marines dive behind walls, returning fire blindly. An RPG explodes against a stone wall, collapsing it onto 2 Marines. A sniper kills a corpsman, who is trying to reach a wounded man. Shelton calls for artillery, but the forward observer is dead shot through the head 5 minutes earlier. Shelton grabs the radio handset himself, reads the map, and calls the coordinates. The first shell lands 60 meters away. Too far. He adjusts, drop 50, fire for effect. The next salvo lands 30 meters away, shaking the ground, throwing shrapnel over the Marine positions. Close enough to feel the heat. Drop to 5, the shells land inside the NVA positions, collapsing bunkers, silencing machine guns. The firing slows. Shelton orders his men forward. They assault through the smoke, shooting NVA soldiers who emerge from the rubble, bayoneting those who are still alive in the bunkers. It is methodical, brutal, and exhausting. By 1100 hours, Foxtrot Company holds Dai Do. They count 87 NVA bodies in the village. They've lost 19 men killed, 26 wounded. Shelton radios Weiss, Dai Do is ours. Weiss responds, hold it. Gulf is moving on Din To. Gulf Company is fresh relatively. They've been in reserve for 36 hours, resting, eating hot food, cleaning weapons. They are the closest thing to a rested unit that the battalion has. Their commander, Captain Bockelder, leads them north toward Din To at 1200 hours. They move in column along a dirt road, exposed, taking occasional sniper fire that kills 1 Marine and wounds 3 others. At 1300 hours, they reach the southern edge of Din To and prepare to attack. Bockelder orders artillery preparation. 10 minutes of sustained fire on the village. The shells land in a steady rhythm, collapsing buildings, setting fires, throwing debris into the air. When the shelling stops, Gulf Company advances. They cross the open paddy at a run, reach the tree line, and push into the village. The NVA are waiting. The bunkers in Din To are deeper, stronger, better concealed than those in Dai Do. They've had days to prepare. Machine guns open fire from positions that are invisible until they shoot. RPG teams fire from second-story windows and then disappear into tunnels before the Marines can respond. Gulf Company takes casualties immediately. 8 men down in the first 5 minutes. They push forward anyway, clearing bunkers with grenades, flamethrowers, and rifle fire. At 1400 hours, they reach the center of the village and stop. They're sounded. NVA soldiers are firing from every direction, and Gulf Company cannot advance without losing half its men. Bockelder calls Weiss, we're pinned. Down. Request immediate fire support. Weiss responds, artillery is unavailable. You're too close to Foxtrot's position. Bockelder understands. He's on his own. He orders his men to hold in place, dig in, and prepare for a counterattack. It comes at 1430 hours. The Meet Grin Death NVA counterattack at Din To is larger, more coordinated, and more violent than anything the Marines have faced so far. To companies, perhaps to 140 men assault Gulf Company's position from the north and east. They move in waves, firing and advancing, using smoke grenades to obscure their movement, accepting horrific casualties to close the distance. Gulf Company opens fire. The first wave of NVA soldiers falls apart under sustained machine gun fire. The second wave keeps coming. They reach the Marine perimeter and engage in close combat. Rifle butts, bayonets, grenades thrown from 5 feet away. A Marine sergeant named James Lewis holds a position alone for 12 minutes after his squad is killed, firing his M16 until it runs dry, then using his pistol, then picking up an AK-47 from a dead NVA soldier and continuing to fight until he is shot and killed. Captain Bockelder is hit in the leg by shrapnel but continues commanding, hobbling between positions, directing fire, calling for ammunition. The NVA break through the perimeter on the eastern side. A squad of NVA soldiers gets inside the Marine position and begins throwing grenades. Marines turn and fire at targets 10 feet away. A corpsman is shot while trying to treat a wounded man. A radio operator is killed while calling for help. Bockelder grabs a rifle and leads a counterattack 10 Marines charging 15 NVA soldiers. In close quarters, the fighting lasts 90 seconds. When it ends, all 15 NVA are dead. The Marines are dead. Bockelder is shot through the shoulder. He refuses evacuation. By 1500 hours, the NVA attack collapses. Gulf Company holds Dintu, but barely. They've lost 22 men killed, 37 wounded. Bockelder radios Weiss, "We can't hold this. We need to withdraw." Weiss responds, "Negative. Reinforcements are coming. Hold your position." Bockelder looks at his men. Most are wounded, all are out of water. Half are out of ammunition. He does not argue. He digs in and waits. The decision May 1st, 1700 hours. Lieutenant Colonel Weiss stands in his command post south of Dong Ha, staring at a map covered in grease pencil marks. Each mark represents a unit, position, a casualty report, an NVA sighting. The situation is clear. His battalion is being destroyed. In 36 hours. He's lost 64 men killed, 143 wounded. His companies are under strength, exhausted, and surrounded by an enemy that continues to fight with suicidal intensity. The logical decision is to withdraw, consolidate his forces, call in massive artillery and air strikes, and level the villages. From a distance. Weiss knows this. He also knows that withdrawal means giving the NVA control of the terrain north of Dong Ha. It means conceding the initiative. It means admitting that a Marine battalion cannot defeat an NVA regiment in close combat. He makes his decision. He will continue the attack. He orders Hotel Company, his last reserve, to move north and reinforce Gulf Company at Dintu. He orders Echo and Foxtrot to hold their positions and prepare to assault Thong Do at first light on May 2nd. His staff officers look at him like he's insane. He ignores them. Hotel Company moves north at 1800 hours, just before sunset. They are the freshest unit in the battalion, but fresh is relative. They've been in combat for weeks. They're under strength. They're tired. Their commander, Captain Sergeant, leads them up the same road that Gulf Company used, moving fast, trying to reach Dintu before dark. At 1845 hours, they're ambushed. The NVA hit them from the west, a platoon-sized force firing from a tree line 100 meters away. Hotel Company drops into the paddies and returns fire. 3 Marines are killed in the first burst. Captain Sergeant calls for artillery, but the guns are supporting Gulf Company and cannot shift fire. He orders his men to assault the tree line. They advance under fire, wading through knee-deep water. Rifles held high, trying to reach the NVA position before more men are killed. They reach the tree line and find it empty. The NVA have withdrawn. Sergeant checks his casualties, 5 dead, 9 wounded. He continues north. At 1930 hours. Hotel Company reaches Dintu and links up with Gulf Company. Together, the 2 companies establish a defensive perimeter and prepare for the night. The NVA probe the lines every 30 minutes. No one sleeps. May 2nd, 0530 hours. The sky is grey, overcast, threatening rain. The temperature is already 85 degrees. Lieutenant Colonel Weiss orders the final assault. Echo and Foxtrot will attack Thong Do from the south and east. Gulf and Hotel will hold Dintu and provide supporting fire. Thong Do is the last village in the chain, the northernmost position before the DMZ. Intelligence believes it is held by a reinforced battalion, perhaps 500 NVA soldiers, dug in and prepared to fight to the last man. Weiss has 400 Marines left in his battalion who are capable of fighting. The attack begins at 0700 hours. Thong Do Company moves first, advancing across an open paddy toward the southern edge of Thong Do. They take fire immediately. Machine guns, rifles, RPGs, and Marines begin falling. Captain Livingston orders his men to assault through the fire. They run forward, shooting, screaming, trying to close the distance before the NVA kill them all. They reach the tree line and push into the village. The fighting is worse than Dai Do. Worse than Dintu. The NVA have fortified every building, every wall, every ditch. They fire from bunkers that are invisible until the Marines are 5 meters away. They throw grenades from second-story windows. They emerge from tunnels behind the Marine positions and shoot men in the back. Livingston moves through the chaos, directing his platoons, calling artillery onto his own position. Dragging wounded men to cover. At 0830 hours, he is shot through the leg. He refuses evacuation and continues fighting. At 0915 hours, he is shot again, this time through the chest. He falls bleeding, unable to stand. A corpsman drags him to cover and works to stop the bleeding. Livingston grabs the radio handset and continues giving orders, lying on his back. Blood soaking his uniform. His platoon leaders take over. They push deeper into Thong Do, clearing bunkers, burning buildings, accepting casualties that would break a conventional unit. By 1000 hours, Echo Company holds the southern half of Thong Do. They've lost 26 men killed, 39 wounded. They cannot advance further. Foxtrot's Assault Fox Company attacks from the east at 0730 hours. Captain Shelton leads them across an open paddy under sustained fire. Marines fall every few meters, shot, blown apart by RPGs, killed by machine gun fire. Shelton does not stop. They reach the village and push inside, moving building to building, using grenades and flamethrowers to clear positions. The NVA fight back with equal intensity, counterattacking from tunnels, forcing hand-to-hand combat. At 0900 hours, Foxtrot's lead platoon is surrounded. NVA soldiers attack from three sides, using grenades and automatic weapons. The platoon commander is killed. The platoon sergeant is killed. The radio operator is killed. The platoon collapses. Shelton leads a relief force, 20 Marines charging into the kill zone, firing, throwing grenades, pulling wounded men out of the rubble. He is shot through the arm. He continues fighting. At 09 for 5 hours. Foxtrot Company links up with Echo Company in the center of Thong Do. Together, they hold a position surrounded by NVA forces. Shelton radios Weiss, "We're in Thong Do, but we can't hold without reinforcements." Weiss responds, "Reinforcements are not available. Hold what you have." Shelton looks at his men. Half are wounded. All are out of water. Ammunition is critically low. He does not argue. He digs in and waits. The final counterattack May 2nd. 1000 to 100 hours. The NVA launched their final counterattack. 3 companies, perhaps 360 men, assault the Marine position in Thong Do from the north, west and east. They move in waves, firing, screaming, accepting casualties. Trying to overrun the Marines through sheer mass, the Marines open fire. Machine guns, rifles, grenade launchers, everything fires at once. The NVA fall in groups, but others keep coming. They reach the Marine perimeter and the fighting becomes hand-to-hand. Marines and NVA soldiers shoot each other from distances measured in feet. Grenades detonate in clusters. Men stab each other with bayonets and knives. A Marine private named Michael O'Malley holds a position alone for 8 minutes, firing his M16 until it jams, then using his entrenching tool to kill 3 NVA soldiers before being shot and killed. Captain Shelton is everywhere, moving between positions, directing fire, throwing grenades, shooting NVA soldiers with his pistol. At 12:15 hours, the NVA break through the western perimeter. A platoon of NVA soldiers gets inside the Marine position and begins clearing bunkers with grenades. Marines turn and fire at targets behind them. The line collapses into chaos. No front, no rear, just killing in all directions. Shelton grabs a machine gun and charges the NVA position. He fires from the hip, walking forward, killing 6 NVA soldiers before being shot through the chest. He falls. A corpsman reaches him, starts working, but Shelton is bleeding out. He dies 90 seconds later, still holding the machine gun. His death rallies the Marines. They counterattack, pushing the NVA out of the perimeter, shooting them as they retreat, chasing them into the paddies. By 12:30 hours, the NVA attack collapses. The Marines hold Thong Do. Aftermath May 2nd, 1400 hours. The battlefield is silent. The NVA have withdrawn north, back across the DMZ. leaving their dead behind. The Marines hold for villages Dong Hon, Dai Do, Din Tu, Thong Du, but the cost is catastrophic. In 4 days, the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines has lost 81 men killed, 397 wounded. Some companies are at 30% strength. The battalion is combat ineffective. The NVA lost more, estimated at over 600 killed, but the numbers are irrelevant. They achieved their objective. They bled the Marines, forced them to commit reserves, and bought time for operations elsewhere. Helicopters land in the paddies, loading the wounded, flying them south to field hospitals. Graves registration teams move through the villages, collecting bodies, tagging them, preparing them for transport. Captain Livingston survives his wounds. He will receive the Medal of Honor for his actions at Dai Do. Captain Shelton is dead. He will receive the Navy Cross posthumously. Lieutenant Colonel Weiss is relieved of command 3 weeks later. The official reason is exhaustion. The real reason is that he pushed his men too hard, accepted too many casualties, and refused to withdraw when ordered. He does not argue. The ground truth, the Battle of Dai Do, is forgotten almost immediately. In May 1968, the American public is focused on the peace talks in Paris, the anti-war protests at home, the political collapse of the Johnson administration. A 4-day battle in a cluster of villages north of Dong Ha does not register. The Marine Corps does not publicize it. The casualty figures are too high. The tactical outcome is ambiguous. The strategic value is questionable. But the men who fought there understand something that does not appear in official reports. They understand that conventional tactics, firepower, maneuver, air support are irrelevant when the enemy refuses to play by conventional rules. The NVA at Dai Do did not mass for battle. They dispersed into villages, dug in, and forced the Marines to fight at ranges where American advantages disappeared. They understand that courage is not enough, discipline is not enough, superior technology is not enough. What matters is the willingness to accept casualties, to keep fighting when logic says to withdraw, to endure conditions that break ordinary men. They understand that the NVA won the psychological battle even as they lost the tactical one. The Marines took the villages, but they paid a price that made victory indistinguishable from defeat. And they understand that this was not an anomaly. This was the pattern of the entire war. Small, vicious engagements in terrain that favored the defender, fought by units that were understrength and overcommitted, producing casualty figures that accumulated slowly until they became politically unsustainable. Lessons in blood. Modern military analysts study Dai Do as a case study in close quarters contained 59 battle in urban warfare in the limits of firepower. They examine the tactics, the decisions, the mistakes. But the real lesson of Dai Do is psychological. The NVA commanders understood that they could not defeat the Marines in open battle. American firepower was too overwhelming. American logistics were too robust. American technology was too advanced. But they also understood that wars are not won on battlefields. They are won in the minds of politicians, journalists, and citizens who watch the casualty reports and lose faith. The NVA's strategy was simple: make the Americans bleed, force them to fight on terrain that negates their advantages, accept horrific casualties in exchange for inflicting moderate casualties, wait for the American public to lose patience. It worked. By 1968, the American military was winning every tactical engagement and losing the war. The contradiction was unsustainable. Within 3 years, American ground forces began withdrawing from Vietnam. Within 5 years, South Vietnam fell. The Marines who fought at Dai Do knew none of this. They fought because they were ordered to fight. They held because they were ordered to hold. They died because their commanders believed the ground once taken could not be surrendered. They were magnificent. They were also betrayed not by their leaders, not by their tactics, but by a strategy that measured success in body counts and believed that violence could substitute for political will. The silent testimony 60 years later, the villages north of Dong Ha are farmland again. The bunkers have been filled in. The craters have been plowed over. The blood has washed into the soil and disappeared. But the names remain: Dai Do, Din Tu, Thong Du, Dong Hon in Marine Corps history. These names carry the same weight as Iwo Jima, Chosin Reservoir, Khe Sanh. They represent a particular kind of hell-close combat in confined terrain against an enemy willing to die. The men who survive do not talk about it. They do not tell their children about dragging a dying friend across a rice paddy, while machine gun fire rips the air. They do not describe the smell of napalm mixed with burning human flesh. They do not explain what it feels like to shoot another human being from 5 feet away and watch him fall. They carry it silently, and they understand, in a way that historians and analysts never will, that war is not about tactics or strategy or technology. It is about young men killing and dying in places that most people cannot find on a map, for reasons that most people do not understand, under conditions that most people cannot imagine. That is the ground truth of Dai Do. That is the ground truth of every battle, every war, every conflict in human history. The specifics change, the weapons improve, the tactics evolve, but the fundamental reality remains: war is horror endured by those who have no choice for objectives that are often forgotten before the blood dries. Final reckoning in the end. The Battle of Dai Do achieved nothing. The villages were abandoned within weeks. The NVA returned. The fighting continued. The men who died there did not die for freedom or democracy or any grand cause. They died because they were there, because they were ordered to attack, because they refused to abandon their brothers. That is the only truth that matters. That is the only truth that survives. The rest, the strategy, the politics, the justifications dissolves into irrelevance when measured against the simple fact of men fighting and dying in the mud. This is what elite units understand that conventional forces do not. This is what the Marines at Dai Do understood, even as they were being destroyed. Victory is not about holding ground. It is not about killing more of them than they kill of you. It is not about achieving objectives or following orders. Victory is about maintaining discipline under conditions designed to break you. It is about continuing to fight when every rational calculation says to surrender. It is about refusing to let your brothers die alone, even when joining them means dying yourself. The Marines at Dai Do did not win the battle, but they did not break. And in the arithmetic of war, where courage is measured in millimeters of advance and seconds of resistance, that is the only victory that endures. The names are carved on a wall in Washington, D.C., along with 58,000 others. Most people walk past without reading them, but the names remain: Livingston, Shelton, Lewis, Bloodworth, O'Malley, and 600 others whose stories are lost, whose sacrifices are forgotten, whose only memorial is the ground they held for 4 days in the spring of 1968. That ground is silent now. The war has moved on, but the lesson remains, carved into the earth in blood and bone. When you ask men to fight, they will fight. When you ask them to hold, they will hold. When you ask them to die, they will die. What you cannot ask is for them to do it for nothing. And at Dai Do, that is exactly what happened. The men fought with everything they had. They bled, they died, they held the ground, and then they left, and the ground returned to the enemy, and the entire enterprise, the strategy, the tactics, the sacrifice was revealed as futile. That is the final, unforgivable truth of Dai Do. Not that men fought and died, but that they fought and died for ground that was surrendered before their bodies were cold. That is the lesson that echoes across decades. That is the warning that modern commanders ignore at their peril. When you send men into battle, you owe them more than orders. You owe them a strategy worthy of their sacrifice. You owe them a cause that justifies the horror you are asking them to endure. At Dai Do, the Marines received orders. They did not receive a strategy. They did not receive a cause. They received coordinates and a direction of attack, and they did what Marines do. They attacked, and 81 of them died. That is the final accounting. Not victory, not defeat, just death and the silence that follows. The rest is commentary.